I want to dive into examples, right? The models might be different country to country, but the pattern is almost similar when we go back and look at history. If I'm not mistaken, you definitely go ahead and shed more light on this. If we go ahead and look at what's happening at ours, I've come to realize that young people definitely want to go ahead and they're looking at an exit. Doesn't matter wherever the exit is, but exit out of here. Let's go ahead and go in the future, a decade later or 2 decades later. What might be the scenario if we do not, if we just go ahead and not pause it, we can't stop it, just go ahead and slightly go ahead and minimize the exit of young people and give them opportunities here. If we don't do that, what can be the scenario in a decade or 2 decades?
Oh, it will be a total disaster. I think even now, your country, you know it better than me, belongs to the group of the poorest countries in the world, but there's no limit to go more down and down and down. And if this happens, I don't know. When people will understand that there has to be a dramatic change in the economy. I think you had a lot of discussion about the Constitution. I think you had 7 constitutions or something like this in 100 years, so more than every other country that I know, so many different, and you had so many debates about Constitution. But I think you should stop discussing constitution stuff, but thinking about the economy, how to make the economy free. For example, what I learned there, you have this maximum 20% profit on good. I never heard it nowhere in the world, and I think it's a totally crazy idea to have this 20%. And of course, this is also a reason for corruption, because the more regulation you have, the more corruption you have. It's everywhere in the world, because if the government is so strong and they have so many regulations, what happens if someone comes to your company and tells, oh, here, RC, you have more than 20% profit. What will you do? They will bribe them. Say, okay, I give you some money and then please close your eyes for this. And so the best way to get reduce corruption is get rid of regulation, because every regulation by the government is another reason for corruption.
We need some kind of check and balance, don't we, in the world?
What do you mean with check and?
When it comes to policies, when it comes to going ahead and making sure that we look into not just businesses, I'm in general saying there needs to be some kind of rules and regulations when it comes to even moving ahead, right? There needs to be, at least a path needs to be set by the government. Isn't that true?
Before you think about, I think there's I know no country in the world where you have not enough regulations, but I know a lot of countries where you have too many. And here I think it's worse than, I've been in 30 countries this year and last year, but I haven't seen a country where you have so much. I've seen a lot of crazy regulations, but here you have so many. The same is for foreign investments. You know, I think you should need more foreign investments. That's what they did in Vietnam. They opened the economy. They welcomed investors, for example, from the United States. They thought about how can we attract foreign investors. And here I think politicians think about how can we stop foreign investments, or what can we, I think they have a long list where it's not allowed for foreign investors to invest here. And then there's not enough capital here in Nepal to do all the things that are necessary. So you need money from outside the world. So I think the main focus from politicians should be how can we make the environment here for investors so attractive that we, for example, what they did in China when Deng Xiaoping started his economic reforms in the 80s, they had this so-called special economic zones. I think you had also something, but it's only called so. It's not, in reality, it's not what it should be. Special economic zone should something like be where you have almost no regulations or very, very little regulations, very low taxes, so that it's really attractive. And then this is the way it happened in China. For example, Shenzhen. Shenzhen today, it's I've been there several times. A huge city, 12 million people living there, a lot of entrepreneurial spirit. But when they started, it was a small village with 50,000 people living there, fishermen. And then they started with special economic zone, and they saw that it worked. And then they had more and more and more, and in the end, in the own country. So what I don't understand, in business, when you see another company that is more successful than your company, we call it in business best practice. And then you learn, what can we learn from them? What can we adapt? And I think you're surrounded here by a lot of countries that became, in a way, successful, different countries in the last decades. I spoke about Vietnam, South Korea, Hong Kong, Singapore, Taiwan. And I think it's not so, for me, it's a little bit hard to understand why people are not unhappy with the situation. Here, look, I think it's the same. Imagine I give you a thought experiment. You're a family and you live in poverty. And then your neighbor, one neighbor after the other, starts having a big car, a better house, and you're still
in poverty
with your bicycle. The normal reaction should be that you look, oh, what does he have? How did he get it? Can I have the same thing? And I hope that this will happen sometimes, that people question this and ask, why are we I don't think that people in Nepal are less intelligent than people in other countries, or that they are lazy. Or I don't think. I think it's the lack of economic freedom. It's that the state is too much involved in everything. This is the only problem. And in the moment when you solve this problem, go away from big government and go in the direction of economic freedom, then of course there's a huge opportunities. And if you attract investors from other countries, and then if people come back who left now your country, I think, of course, your country could have a great future. I'm absolutely convinced about it.
Thank you very much for watching us on YouTube. Make sure that you also listen to us on Spotify.